Address. We are joined by Victoria Churchill, Daily Mail political reporter, back here on the Live Zone. It's been quite some time, Victoria. Always good to see you. Welcome back to the show.
Always great to be on with you guys. Thank you so much for having me back.
So we'll start with your overall assessment with regard to what the president had to say last night.
Well, overall, I think he delivered the message that he wanted to deliver, and he avoided the topics that he wanted to avoid. I know your previous guest was just talking with you about some things that he didn't mention, like the ICE killings in Minneapolis, as well as the Epstein files. I actually talked to one of the Epstein victims, Danielle. She was the guest of Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, and she said that she was disappointed but not surprised that the president did not mention the files. But you know what? Overall, I think he went in there, he kind of talked about the messages of patriotism, of really bringing this country together. And he even got applause from some Democrats on moments when he talked about, for example, the U.S. hosting both the World Cup this year as well as the next Olympic Games in Los Angeles in 2028. So I think that's some kudos to him that he was able to get some applause from Democrats. Another moment where he was able to get Democrats to applaud him last night was talking about political violence, particularly about the murder of Charlie Kirk. Of course, Charlie's widow, Erica, was in the room last night, as was I. I was covering there live in the for the Daily Mail in the press gallery, just a few rows above the president. It was really a surreal experience. And I think the State of the Union is one that Americans will be talking about for a long time.
Yeah, well, for that reason and others, including how long it took for the president to deliver that speech, yet again a record 1 hour and 48 minutes to be exact. The president also stated that he has lived up to what he promised the American people. Take a look.
The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. That is why I'm also asking you to end deadly sanctuary cities that protect the criminals and enact serious penalties for public officials who block the removal of criminal aliens. In many cases, drug lords, murderers all over our country, they're blocking the removal of these people out of our country, and you should be ashamed of yourself.
Victoria, obviously, the Democrats were not happy with that statement.
They weren't. And, the camera there panned to Representative Ilhan Omar as well as Representative Rashida Tlaib. And those two in particular were some of the more vocal members of the Democrat Party. Of course, I'm not surprised that they were willing and able to voice their opinions in the way that they did. But I also want to point out that that actually stands in contrast to what House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries hoped that his members would do. He basically gave them two options. I believe it was last week at a press conference. He said either attend alternative programming or, attend silently but peacefully. And as both Representatives Omar and Tlaib, as well as Congressman Al Green, they were there to disrupt the president's speech, which, I'm interested to see how some of those conversations behind closed doors are going now with members of the Democrat Party, the Democrat caucus, particularly on the House side.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Speaking of conversations behind closed doors, we know that the president announced a war on fraud. And House Speaker Mike Johnson says he supports this move. In the State of the Union address last night, the president claimed members of Minnesota's Somali community have defrauded American taxpayers of upwards of $19 billion, with a B, billion dollars. He went on to say other states like California, Massachusetts, and Maine are much worse. Was the president correct to make this statement and or assessment?
I think really anybody who you talk to on both sides of the political aisle thinks that there is fraud and that, a lot of the times it's oversight by the federal government that allows it to persist. Obviously, the president has singled out the Somali community in Minnesota kind of as his, his really key group to focus on over the last few months. Of course, he used that to justify increased ICE action in Minneapolis and in other liberal cities. But, I think you also have to look at, for example, post-COVID fraud that happened with a lot of small businesses where people were claiming credits for operations that either weren't happening or were kind of grossly overestimated or kind of used as ways to get more money when the things that these businesses were saying that they were doing weren't really happening.
Victoria, we'll end with this, and that is all things foreign policy. We know that the president has also warned Iran in his State of the Union address, saying that he will make peace wherever he can. He then added, "We will never hesitate to confront threats to America whenever we must." Yet again, a stern warning to Iran.
Absolutely, Guy. I think what's interesting to note here is that Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer actually was at a White House briefing yesterday, and his take was that this is a very serious situation that the president should kind of address and make his case to the American people on. So I'm interested to see what happens there next. And I'm also interested to see what role Congress thinks they should play and what role they should play. Obviously, Congress in both chambers and with members of both political parties have, over the past few months, with actions in both Iran and Venezuela, been kind of very forthcoming about resolutions on War Powers Act for the president. And so I wonder if that's going to deter his action at all. I think if we know this president at all, that won't deter his action. He's kind of going to be a ask for forgiveness, not permission kind of guy. And I think, for example, that Maduro raid is a prime example of that, where we went in guns a-blazing, performed that operation, and then last night he really applauded the work of some of the military members that participated in that.
Well said. Yet again, Victoria Churchill, Daily Mail political reporter, joining us right here on the Fox 5 Live Zone. We truly appreciate your time. All right, folks, we'll take a quick break. On the flip side of that break, Jim Lokay will join us live from the White House. This is the Fox 5 Live Zone. We'll be right back.